Talk Data to Me, the podcast, with Rashmi and Avinash from UXLI, breaking down the world of corporate data.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Talk Data to Me. Today we're going to see how we can move from confusion to clarity in analytics. We're going to slice through dashboards, sprinkle in some AI magic and try not to offend Excel lovers too much. I'm your host Chris Gregg and I'm here with Rashmi, who's a full-time data whisperer. Hello Rashmi.
Hello Chris.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. And we have a very special guest today in the studio who's been deep in the data trenches for years. He's built teams, launched products, and more recently, he's been trying to make data, well, human again. So please welcome our guest today. It's Avinash from UXLI, the company behind a rather transformative data solution. Good to have you here. How are you doing?
Good morning, Chris. Thank you so much. And I must say, data and sprinkles have been mentioned in one sentence for the first time probably today. It almost sounds like Stardust. So, we could do some magic with analytics with our transformative product, and we'll go along talking about it in a bit more detail.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to you wielding your data magic wand today and seeing what comes out sprinkle-wise. So let's dive in. Rashmi, the world is clearly obsessed with data. Everybody's talking AI, everybody's talking data and dashboards as well. Everyone's talking about the dashboard. A lot of organizations are still complaining a lot of the time that they've got the tools, but they don't have the answers. Why do you think that is?
That's a classic paradox. People think that if you have got bigger stack of the tools, the answers will automatically come, magically, come. However, the bigger stack of tools means bigger problem.
Okay.
Tools talk technical language, and users speak business language. And that is where we are having a gap at the moment.
Okay.
So business people understand the business, and technical people talk so technical that there's a confusion.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest problem at the moment. That's the issues what lots of organizations are facing at the moment.
Yeah, I think it sounds like you've described a lot of businesses right there, and that sort of chaos that you get between the geeks and the people that
Absolutely.
are using the software. And I think a lot of people have got the tools that they need, but they're still doing everything on maybe an Excel spreadsheet and sending that backwards and forwards, often even late at night, kind of getting all of the numbers ready.
Exactly, because what happens is lots of companies have got tools. However, they are so much dependent on Excel sheets because tools are not talking to each other. Sometimes I get, even within our organizations, I get like on WhatsApp messages, okay, can you send me particular, email or that Excel sheet, what you had showed it in the morning. The thing shouldn't be like that. Things should be, if you have got tools, they should be automatically be able to talk to each other, and they should be able to give you the reports what you're looking for, rather than manually doing the Excel sheets to ask you to kind of float those Excel sheets in an email.
I think there's going to be so many people listening to this that are relating to that, where you've got the tools and you've got the business layer, and they're not talking to each other, they're not communicating. It's like you've got people shouting in opposite directions with megaphones and they can't hear what each person's saying.
Absolutely.
And I think the challenge here is how you bring that all together and make it work. So I'm going to bring Avinash back in here, and I think you've got the answers to all of our problems, hopefully.
Hopefully, I don't want to let you down, but what is missing, and just picking up from where Rashmi left, what you have today is a heavily technical requirement on one side and a very, businessy speak, and the translation becomes a problem. So what we are trying to do here is bridge the gap in a very good way. What my argument to my team has always been is for example, I'm a finance expert. I don't need to learn another BI tool to just be able to, sort of get my dashboards out or read my numbers. I should be able to do that very flexibly. I don't need to learn another language like SQL, query the data. It's beyond me, right? So what we are trying to do, and what the challenge that I have given to my team is, how can we make the translation simpler. So business says, I want to look at my balance sheet, I want to look my accounts balance, I want to look at my receivables, or whatever the case might be. Someone sitting in supply chain says, okay, how many trucks am I requiring today to move my goods from A to B, for instance, right? So they don't need to know SQL, they don't need to know the tools, they don't need to learn another language, another tool, right? So what we are trying to do here is let the business ask the questions in their own language and make the system intelligent enough so it gets translated into technical speak and automatically provides the answers in a way that the business understands. Otherwise, I can give something in a programming based format and the business still is out of their depths, right?
Yeah.
That's what the translation layer is all about.
That makes absolute sense. So the users don't need to be there writing formulas, building models, and running to IT every 5 minutes because they don't really understand what they're doing, and it's not really their job. They want to focus on running the business, not on programming.
Absolutely. And if you see the distinction between them, the business users are the people who know the business best. They know how to run it. And the technology guys are the ones who know what they need to run that business or support them. So essentially, the point I'm making here is the technology is a service arm. It should not be the one dictating things, right? The system should be clever enough to understand anyone's language, whether it is the technology speaking or whether it's the business speaking. And that is what we are trying to, bridge in here.
Okay, that makes complete sense. And I think a lot of companies would want to do a POC, a proof of concept, before they roll out a solution like this, because it's a big step to move all of your systems across and kind of say goodbye to those spreadsheets. And I think I heard, was it one of you that once called a proof of concept POC a Trojan horse? Now that terrifies me because I'm very worried that my POC is going to have little Trojans inside that can jump out and destroy all my systems. It sounds very dramatic. Rashmi, should I be terrified?
Well, it is dramatic. Don't get terrified, Chris.
Okay.
It's dramatic, but it is dangerously true. Here is what happens. When you are talking about POCs, which is a proof of concept, it's done on a sandbox, right? It's done, installed on a sandbox. Everyone claps, job's done. It's exactly like you're driving a car in a tested environment, right? It will run fast. It will give you exactly what miles have been promised per gallon, but it's in a controlled environment.
You got a little crash test dummy driving the car, not a human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, when you actually drive a car outside, you come to know about different features, different functions, and it doesn't really match with the miles which have been promised to you. The same thing happens with the POC. When the POC is done in that controlled environment, it works fine. However, when it goes to production, or in a bigger, like it wants to scale, right? That is when you actually see these problems. And then that is when, you need to be actually making sure that this function is working fine, this particular feature is working fine. And that is what we have seen the biggest issue. And about the Trojan horse, I will hand it over to Avinash to explain.
Okay. Not a problem.
Okay.
So, you see, the Trojan horse is a very clever, deceptive way, right? If you went back to Iliad and Homer, or that time, the Trojan horse was not what it is meant to be today. I mean, we look at it in a slightly derogative way. The Trojan horse at that point in time was the strategy. It was left as a gift, but it concealed a lot of soldiers inside. And exactly that's what happens in the case of a POC as well. And like Rashmi said, because it's done in a controlled environment, everything looks very beautiful. But once you put it in a live environment, you start encountering, just taking on from Rashmi's example of a car, you encounter traffic, you encounter bad drivers, you encounter bad roads, you encounter signals and the rest of it. So what then happens? Because these were concealed, you did not know during the POC, right? And these are real things, because running my Tesla in a test environment is very different from driving it on the street. Of course, there is a lot of automation and all, but still it's different, right? So the point of me saying that it was a Trojan horse is that there's a lot of hidden things, and until you open that, until you bring it into the real world, you never know what is inside. There are surprises, so be prepared for them. That's, I think, the intent behind calling it like a Trojan horse.
Yeah, it's a bit of a can of worms, though.
It is.
And I think that's going to worry some people, because if you never really know when you're working in that sandbox environment what it's going to be like in the real world, how can you avoid that sort of proof of concept illusion?
So what I say is, you take the most complex business case that you have, right? You think about the POC not as a POC, not as a part of your strategy, not as a part of testing a solution, but ensure that, if I build something in the POC, is it reusable? Can I reuse it? If it is reusable, can it grow with me? Because it should not happen that it's, made in a very rigid way that the flexibility is lost, right? So during the POC, and I'm not against POCs. POCs are a brilliant way of establishing whether this something is going to work. You see, it says in the name that it's a proof of concept at the end of the day. So the concept has got to work, but will it buckle under pressure? Right. And what that means then is, instead of doing it in an environment that is heavily controlled, make sure that you give it some flavor of the real world. So, and it's not too difficult, because at the end of the day, the road is yours in the case of an automobile, and the data is yours in the case of a proof of concept in IT. So expose it to some of the real dangers that it is encountering, and that way establish that, yes, it's robust enough to, give me what I'm looking for. Right. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Right. So I think that's the dream. That's how you'd want to do it, and obviously you guys can guide people through making that work.
Just one point, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. What also is the danger is, these days you have AI as well coming into the picture, and we don't realize, but how many times have we just not believed what comes out of when you ask AI a question, right? I'm not naming any tools out there, but how many times do we even go back and verify whether what's coming out is true or not? That adds another, an angle to it, because it's come from AI. Do I just blindly believe it? So that's again something.
I think that's one of the things that everyone's learning with AI, that you can't believe it at all. You've got to check everything. And okay, let's talk about AI now. Everybody is kind of the hot topic at the moment. I think it's just going to become even more so. A lot of people are experimenting with it, but I don't think there's that many people that have really nailed it, and they're using it in the most effective way, and they know what it's good for, what it's not good for, and just properly integrating it into their business workflow. Why do you think that is?
I think it's early days. It's still an emerging technology. AI is still learning from the data that we have, and I just mentioned that we have a data chaos everywhere. Our data quality is not the greatest in the world. Everyone looks at their own KPIs in a different way. I think going back to your question of why, experimental is one way, but more importantly, AI currently, everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon. And in that rush, most of the people are asking, how can I use AI? Right? That mindset, in my opinion, has got to change. Rather than asking, how can I use AI? It should be, what decisions can I improve using AI? That, sort of changes the entire context. I can do 20 things with AI. I can just use it for play, or I can use it to create a podcast, or I could do whatever I want with it. But in a business parlance, what are you using AI for? It's not just for asking questions, or maybe you do, but those questions have to have the relevance of how it can improve my decisions. How can I quickly use AI to come to my decisions? And I think there's a lot of work going on. There's a lot of success that we are seeing, and it's an improving thing. That's why it is still experimental, right? Yeah. But if we stop doing it, is also bad, right? So the word of caution here is, whatever comes out, verify it. What it is giving you, make sure that that's what you wanted. Don't blindly trust it. But at the same time, do not stop using it, because we need to train it. We need to get it more and more exposure, so it learns and improves its responses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also just not using it as a search engine, and understanding what it's for, not trying to make it into Google, which is something
you make a very good point there. Since the advent of AI in the last 2-3 years, how many times have you really gone to Google and asked and did a search? It's easier to just get there and ask AI and sort of. I mean, Google is as good as it was before. So
I think it's a very different thing, and I think you're absolutely right that it's not about sitting down in your business and saying, "Oh, AI's here. What can we use it for?" It's about coming to it with the problem and then finding how you can integrate that into the solution. Absolutely. And also very good at writing poetry as well. I can't see how that is of any use in a business environment, but maybe if you've got an awkward letter to send somebody, writing it in the form of a Shakespearean sonnet might be somehow useful. But what are we going to do with AI? What's your strategy for integrating that into a successful business?
Like I said, I think the strategy is very simple. Businesses, rather than focusing on how quickly can I bring AI, they should focus on, I have the tools that allow me to ask AI type question or AI questions. What are the questions that I want to ask it to improve it? What am I not getting today, or what is it taking long for me to come to a decision point? Those are the sort of questions that the business can articulate before sort of getting into making it an everyday affair, if you see what I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's get practical for a second. Say I'm a business owner listening to this. Maybe I lead operations or finance. How can I experience this problem? What does the translation layer feel like in action?
Okay. It's difficult to explain, but I'll go back to what I said a few minutes ago. Right. So you have technology and the technical guys on one side, and you have the business on another. And their languages are so different that you need a bridge between them. Now, what we as a company or as a product need to do is understand both the dialects, right? I have to have a balanced view of what the business is trying to ask and what the challenges are for that question to be answered technically, right? Once I have understood those dialects, I can then derive logic from it. What is that this guy is asking and what is the other guy not able to do? And weave that logic into the product itself, right? And I'm not trying to make it more complicated than it is. It is very, very simple. I mean, anyone who is listening and interested in looking at it, we can arrange for a demo, get in touch with us, and we could do it. So because the logic is woven into the system, we are able to consume actual data rather than creating some dummy data and sort of creating some dummy dashboards or giving you PowerPoint presentations on establishing our point or the context of it. What is easy and what is different with the translation layer is the business becomes a part of the journey. Today what happens? The business gives a requirement, IT goes, builds it, and by the time it comes back, probably the business has moved 20 miles away, right? So the question does not stand any more relevant. What's happening with the translation layer is because the business is with me all the time. In fact, the business is driving this. What they are able to then convince themselves is my logic working right at that point in time? They're a part of the journey, right? They're not sitting in a dark room waiting for something to come out. It's corrections can be made as we go along. That's the flexibility that the translation layer is trying to give you.
That's brilliant. So you get real context, not canned demos.
Correct.
You also said something once that stuck with me, and you said too many tools, not enough clarity. Is that still the biggest issue, do you think?
It is. It was, and it's much bigger now, right? For various reasons. So if you took a typical business case, what's happening is, I have a challenge in finance. Okay, get the finance guys, the finance guys go into some expo or some such, look at a tool, get impressed by it, they want it. There's a challenge with my data extraction. I go buy a tool, come back in. So it's all those different tools which are now leading to more technical stack. You're having a more technical debt. You need more people to support it. You need more people to learn it. Because at the end of the day, no matter how flexible a tool is, there is an element of technology within it, right? So what is happening is with all these extra tools coming into picture, you are creating a barrier between them because every tool does not talk the same language, right? So to put it in a very nice way is saying that, okay, I'm preparing to run a marathon, and I'm giving my legs a brain, I'm giving my other limbs a brain, and asking the body to run a marathon. And that's not going to happen. There has got to be one brain that sits on top, controlling everything, right? That's the translation layer.
Yeah, that's quite a terrifying image. So I'm not sure where that came from. It's slightly disturbing. So what you're saying is simplification is the new superpower.
Yes, absolutely. So what we need is not to do more, but somehow make it feel less. So I should be able to do what I'm doing with the least effort. That's what I want. And I want it on time, because my decisions, my business decisions are dependent upon how quickly and how accurately I can get to the answers, right? So that's where, tools like the one that we are developing will come into picture, because the business does not have to specify a requirement. The downside of specifying a requirement is, if I had a scripted podcast today, I would be able to only talk within those confines. That's exactly what happens with a specification, because I cannot preempt anything. I don't know what you're going to ask me next.
No.
So I cannot prepare myself. And that's exactly what it is. So if we are doing it effortlessly, if there is no script, there is no bound book to that one, then it just flows. And that's bringing in more tools is like creating more and more scripts that don't talk to each other. So scene 1 in one language, one dialect, and scene 24 in another. That's what is happening today. So we just want to sort of bring all of them together in a way that you are able to sing from the same gospel
hymn sheet.
Hymn sheet.
So it's kind of like editing together loads of different episodes of EastEnders with completely different plots, and it makes absolutely no sense at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, right. I've got a fun question for you now. You've compared data platforms to the Roman Empire in the past, which sounds very interesting. What do you think are the similarities there?
I must first commend you for something, Chris. You have done a lot of research on what I have said. You picked up my Trojan horse. Now you're picking up on the Roman Empire.
I'm getting a feeling that you love the classics, because there's a lot of kind of 2,000-year-old references here.
That's true, actually. And there is a post that's going out probably later today that goes back even further.
Even further.
So
dinosaurs, you're comparing them to cavemen?
I wish, but dinosaurs did not do anything with data. But
we don't know. They might have done.
They might have, yes. But the thing is, and you mentioned a good point, going back to history, we can learn a lot from there. Now, people may think, okay, what's common between, say, the Roman Republic and Julius Caesar and today's data world, right? The problems are the same. The manifestation is different, right? So why did Caesar rise? Only because there were the Senate was powerless in a way, or there were too many people with vested interests who wanted to promote their own things, which is exactly what is happening in today's world as well. There are too many tools. There are too many vested interests. I'm not saying for a bad reason, but too many tools create too many problems. Exactly like what happened with the Roman Republic with the Senate. It did not have one power. And that's where Caesar brought that unification theme in there, right? So what? And when he rose, that unified Roman Republic became a bit more, concentrated, and we can see a lot of developments that happened during that time. So if we are able to bring one layer, one language, one logic, and unify them, then we are going to create something that will last long. And that was the reference to the Julius Caesar thing, the Roman Republic.
Yeah, love it. Okay, we've got time for one more question. What would you say is the one myth about data that you wish we could finally stop spreading?
Oh, can I go 10? No, only one. Okay.
One. Yeah.
All right. The more data does not equal more insight. It's as simple as that. More tools do not give you more power. They do not answer your questions quicker, right? In fact, the myth that I want to break is more data is equals to more noise. Because until and unless you have controlled your data, until and unless you have a robust data supporting all the tools, your answers are going to be as vague as they are. It's like saying, oh, I've got a big bookshelf at home. And that does not mean that it's making you any wiser. I could sleep with a stack of books under my pillow, but the knowledge doesn't go in. So just having data does not help, right? You need to have the right data, clean data, and all the problems with the data removed in a way that you are able to have, to sort of get the accurate answers, right? So even if you have a big bookshelf, you still need to read to get intelligent. So if you have the data, you make sure that you're using it in the right way. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the myth that I want to break.
That is so true. And yeah, there's no point having like the world's biggest library if you haven't learned to read.
That's it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This
has been so interesting. Thank you so much for joining us on the first one of our podcasts. It's been really insightful and eye-opening and very entertaining as well. So thank you very much to our guest this week, Avinash. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
And also thank you very much to Rashmi for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so
You've
much.
been listening to Talk Data to Me, and if you are tired of dashboards that won't deliver, spreadsheets that won't die, and reports that raise more questions than answers, maybe it's time to speak to a platform that actually speaks to you. If you want to find out more and find out how you can have some data therapy, do follow us, like and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments, and we will see you next time.